Hi everybody. I wanted to do this video because I wanted to share my personal experiences with OCD as far as how it started, when I first noticed it, when it became a problem, and just throughout my life when and where I think that it came from. So if I want to go back, I'll probably right now I'm 49 years old. I'll be 50 next year. I mean, not next year, next month. Putting it off again. I'm doing this video. I'm decided to do this video because I have some time off. I usually work Monday through Friday, but I'm currently recovering from surgery, so I have some time on my hands. But I've been meaning to do this for a couple weeks, just so if I can say anything that can help somebody to like not feel alone and not understand like what this is and what could just be bothering them. You know, sometimes when we see that other people have experienced the same things that we have, it is like it's like a weight lifted off, like, oh, I'm not the only one, somebody else knows exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to start at the beginning. The first kind of times what I know now to be OCD was probably in college. I don't know a particular year. I'll say like probably 91. Yeah, probably 1991. I was like a second semester freshman in college. And when I think back on it, no, let me take that back. I want to say the summer of 92 was probably the first time I experienced like what I know to be OCD now. And what I remember specifically is that having these things, and let me go back. OCD is not just, oh, did I lock the door, checking the door 20 times. I have to knock down on a table twice, or this is gonna happen, or any kind of like washing hands 100 times. That is OCD, but that is like only part of it. The OCD I'm talking about is intrusive thoughts, and it can vary. There are so many types of intrusive thoughts, categories, levels. Oh, it just runs the gamut of all kinds of like subcategories, everything. And so like if you're having a thought, a lot of times people will not put it in the category OCD because we don't think of OCD like that. We think of OCD as being, oh, you know, those things I mentioned before, and that's not true. So going back to my story, this is as far back as I can remember, the summer of 92. I remember having these thoughts about, what if I wake up one day and can't walk? So, you know, for most people, they can dismiss this and like, what is that? It's silly. You know, what are you talking about? I can't walk. I'm walking now. I'm doing everything now. And that's what's strange about OCD. What's so weird that the brain can trick you into believing that these things can become a reality. And I remember being in my apartment, I believe, and having this thought, and it just became so troublesome. Like it was doomed to happen. And I just kept thinking of all these different scenarios and different things, and like, oh man, what if this did happen? What would I do? What would people think? Somebody have to take care of me. I'm so young. I'm in college. How would I finish college? Just how this changed my life? How do just a whole bunch of stuff, and it was just so troubling. It was just like put me in a bad mood. I mean, just so scared and so fearful and just it was bad. And I would try to reach out to people and tell them like sort of like what's going on. Like I would say, oh, well, have you ever, or this, and you get a good laugh with your friends about it, and oh, yeah, that's silly, and yeah, I think I've thought about something like that, but nobody's really had answers for you, like, oh yeah, this happened to me and this is what I did. So yeah, that it would give you a little bit of comfort, and then you like, yeah, not really. And the thing about OCD, in my experience, for me, what I found is that you'll have these thoughts, and then after like thinking about them and ruminating on it for like, I don't know, it could be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they'll dissipate, and then you'll feel fine, and then you'll feel like, hey, that was strange, huh? Okay, and then after that, thoughts would come to me here and there, like, and they would vary. Like, one of them was, I always would think about, what if I was gay? What if I was gay? And I'm not, and I wasn't trying to experiment, but to me, that was just like a thought to just think about all the time, like thinking about it and just thinking about things like that. And OCD, what I've learned now, and I'll tell you how I've gotten to the point where I've learned about a lot of this stuff, is that OCD has many categories, as I mentioned before, and having thoughts like about sexuality is in one of the groups. Let me adjust myself. It's in one of the groups. Having thoughts about, like I said before, not being able to walk. It just can run so far, like religious thoughts. Oh, I'm not pleasing to God, and what if I did this? And like I said, in college is really at the age of probably 19 and 20 is really, really, really when this used to affect me. I used to just sit and think about this and be so fearful, and just be alone with like my imagination, looking for answers, but not knowing what this is. Am I mentally ill? What's going on? And I do remember in college going to see a therapist at the college behavioral place, whatever, services, and going to therapy. And I can't remember any of it, but I don't think we ever got to that. And if we did, there was no mention of OCD or anything of that nature. So that was that. So I recognized that this was a problem. It was kind of hidden. I would share to a certain extent, but people didn't know to what extent it bothered me. So then, during my college years, I became a born-again Christian, gave my life to Christ, and so even with that, there would be things that the OCD would bother, would attack. Like, you're happy to be a Christian, it's the best thing that you could ever do for to give your life to Christ. But then you think about the worst case scenario with your relationship with God. OCD likes to touch is anything that you hold dear, or anything that you, like I said, hold dear or find, or it's very important to you. Like, you think about this one scripture that says this is the only thing to keep you, that the Lord won't forgive you. So then I would, as a new Christian, you find that out and you start thinking about that. And then some people who aren't OCD probably think about that, like, more so just because you're a new Christian, you don't know what this is. But a person with OCD, it becomes amplified. I remember going during a prayer service and a praise and worship, going to one of my elders to tell him this in the middle of praise service, and he tells the pastor, and the pastor's kind of looking like, what? And because it just was like one of those things, like, okay, yeah, she's a new Christian, this is probably what this is, but it still became part of the obsession compulsion of this OCD. Also, I did find someone who kind of understood what it was, who I was in a relationship with. It's like one of the shortest relationships that I was ever in, but it was kind of intense. And we sort of talked about this. And I kind of felt some relief having someone there who kind of understood what I was going through and what we didn't know. Again, we didn't know this was OCD. Mind you, this is 1993, 94. So, yeah, so going back, as I, another thought or memory that I can go back to was probably in 1995 with the birth of my son. I was about 23 years old. And just even then, I remember the nurse coming to the house to do a wellness check on him. And before she had come, like maybe weeks before she had come, I don't know, days, I kept thinking, obsessing about, I've got multiple sclerosis. Just thinking, I've got it. I know I do. I know I've got it. And then what OCD is like a snowball. You'll start with the thought, then you'll start with all the consequences of the thought, of all these things that are going to happen because you have MS or you won't be able to walk, whatever it may be. And then this thing snowballs. Now you have MS. Now you're in a wheelchair. Now you can't talk. Now you won't be able to enjoy your first child. Now you won't be able to be like a normal person. It's so debilitating. It's so debilitating. So the nurse would come, and the nurse came and I told her this, and she's just like, well, no, let me check you out. And, and I don't even know if she checked me out. She just kind of asked me some questions. And that made my OCD go away as far as that's concerned. So that was that. And then sometimes your OCD, if you get some type of confirmation, it's like a definite, no, this isn't what this is, then you're okay with that. That may be able to squelch like that OCD thought. But then you'll come up with a new one. Maybe it's not right away. Maybe it is. Maybe it depends. And what I found is that OCD, and I think I'm saying this right, or getting the point across right from what I've read and heard, it attacks things that are important to you. As a student, me getting back and forth to campus, walking to work, doing this, getting to school, getting my education is very important to me. So therefore, you could probably see the correlation of what if I can't be able to walk? That would affect my independence. Therefore, that would affect my time in college, my experience. What if I committed to sin that God couldn't forgive me? That means this newfound love I've had of Jesus and God, He won't forgive me, and I won't be a Christian. And So you see the correlation. Then with my son, I won't be able to be a first time mother and enjoy it. It's gonna, I won't miss this whole experience. So you can kind of see a correlation. Then, years later, not years later, maybe 96, 97. Excuse me, guys. Readjusting myself. Had surgery. I joined a church. Like I told you before, I was a born again Christian, and I had recently got married, and we moved back to Chicago. And I had kind of been following this ministry that was in Chicago. And oh, by the way, I'm originally from Chicago. So from Chicago, went downstate to school at Illinois State University, moved back to Chicago. So anyway, and this church was a church that was heavily about deliverance. And if you don't know what deliverance is believing that a Christian can have a demon, and that you need to go through deliverance to be delivered from all your demons that you lit in, generational curses, whatever. And so with that, looking back, that kind of gave fire to my OCD, because in a deliverance ministry, you always think that something is a demon. Oh, that's the spirit of fear. That's the spirit of witchcraft. That's this. So every time you had a OCD thought, it would correlate with, like, it could be a spirit. And so I need to be at the altar getting deliverance, because that's a spirit, and that spirit is what's causing me all of this anguish. And so I would constantly always get called out for the spirit of fear. And because I would ask to be prayed for, I'm assuming, I can't remember directly about what I was up at the altar for to pray for, and I was saying, and they would bind the spirit of fear and go through the session as demons. So I'm always so, as a person who suffers from OCD, you're always so hyper conscious of how you feel and things around you. Like, oh, did I let that spirit in? Or, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to be doing this, and that could cause the spirit. Now I'm scared. Or just always thinking something, you're in a spiritual realm, and so you're hypersensitive to, like, what is causing this. Oh, it's a demon. Oh, it's this. And all this time, being out of it, looking back, that was my mental condition, OCD. All of that time, that was OCD. And being in a ministry like that, I believe, just gave fuel to it. I haven't been in that church in 17 years, and since coming out of that church, I've come into a more reformed theology and better understanding of who God is, and but that could be for another video. But anyway, yeah, so going from this church, then leaving the church, and still at times dealing with this issue all through my life, not really understanding what it was. And then what would be a common theme would be, oh no, you're not a Christian anymore. You're not a Christian anymore. And ruminating over this, and then, I mean, this would take me through some heavy emotions and feelings that would take weeks and weeks and weeks to get out of it. And just by thankful to God and the mercy of God that I was able to overcome some of that, because it was just so hard. Anybody with OCD understands what you're saying, what you're trying to say. Look at me tearing up a little bit, because this can help somebody who can recognize like what it feels like in the places that you're at. I did not mean to cry. Ugh. So anyway, I think I want to say back in 2015, 2016, I just had a really bad episode. Excuse me again. I don't know if I've ever directly told my husband about like before this time, because I had got married in 1996, divorced my first husband in 2003, and then I got remarried in 2009, and I'm still married, happily married to my husband now, who is and I don't know if this matters, but my first husband was not a believer in Jesus Christ, but my second husband, we're both believers, and so maybe that'll have make a difference. I don't know, but anyway. So like I think I've told him about this, and I don't know if he just kind of brushed it off or say let's pray about it. I can't really say, but there was one particular time in 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. Might have been a little bit sooner, but I think it was around then, that I just had a complete and total like breakdown. Like I mean, not breakdown like I'm in the hospital or anything, but like I just came running to him. I don't know if I was asleep, and I was just like, babe, I had this thought. This thought was so horrible. I don't know what this is. What does this mean? What's going on? And it was something that was, oh my gosh, like I told you, there's so many subcategories of OCD, and this one was particularly bad. It involved like children, and it was like just these, oh gosh, just these things, and you're not, and I like to say this, you are not these thoughts, these intrusive thoughts that come to you. You are not that. You are not that. These things come at random. They have nothing to do with who you are or whatever. So I remember going to my husband, and oh my gosh, it was so bad. And he just kind of said, what's going on? So we just kind of prayed, I believe, and then he said, I'm going to find out what this is. We're going to look into this, find out what this is. And I don't know what we did. We typed in something, thoughts, or it might have been intrusive thoughts, and then all of a sudden, and this is on YouTube, we pulled up a whole set of videos of people talking about this. And what we came to find out is that this is OCD. And like many others, we're thinking OCD as like, again, washing your hands 100 times, checking the door to be locked. I had never understood OCD to be intrusive thoughts. I don't know, it's not because I never looked it up. I don't know. I just never, mind you, when I was in college, there was no internet. So I had never thought to do that, to look that up. But once we did, it was like a door open. And I was like, this is what this has been for these past, at that time, 10, 20 years? Yeah, these past 20 years, this is what this has been. I had never in my wildest dreams thought about that. I never heard of that before. So then you can go through and people are just like, my OCD with this, my OCD with that. It is so many different categories. There's so many different subsections. Oh my gosh, so many. So from that point on, anytime these intrusive thoughts would come, I would kind of have an understanding of this is what this is. This is what this is. Now that does not mean that just because you know what it is, that it automatically defeats the thought. It helps because this is not me. This is intrusive thought that I do not want. And, there's that. But it's still, you still suffer because you're like, how do I get this out of my head? Because it still feels a little bit debilitating, even though you kind of know what it is. I had told my husband at certain times, if I felt like it would get a certain kind of way, maybe I should seek help. I don't know. Let me try to look into this. Now, this is the part that only God could orchestrate. I'm telling you. So, I was a stay-at-home mom from 2010 to 2019. I started a job at a very nice, I'm in healthcare. I'm in administrative side of healthcare. Getting back in the workforce. Love my work team, But, been out of the workforce, just finished up my master's in healthcare administration. I'm like, love this job, but it's time to move on. It's time to start working in my skill set. Not getting any younger. So this was back in 2021, I believe. Yeah, so I left that place. I worked there from 2019 to 2021. Left that place, got a temp assignment that I thought was more towards my skill set, and worked there for a couple months. So, as you know, if you're at a temp job, you're like, okay, this is temp. I'm constantly going to be looking for another kind of a permanent job. This is great to be doing something and getting the experience, but I need to look for something else. So, as I was looking, I saw an ad or listing for a job at a company called OCD. And I said, what is that? OCD? And would you believe, and I couldn't believe this, I actually didn't think it was real. It was a company, an online behavioral health company that specializes in treating people with OCD, intrusive thoughts, whatnot. But I believe the way I read it, it was a heavy emphasis on intrusive thoughts. And everything I just explained that I've been through all of these years, I saw a company and a job that was for a company that did the very thing that I needed, that I suffered from, I should say. So I applied for it thinking that it's not going to be a real job. I said, this don't even sound like I never heard of specialty behavioral health companies like that. We usually think of healthcare, behavior health, whatever in general. Psychiatry, psychology, whatever it is. Excuse me. Psychology, psychiatry, whatever that is. So you think about it and then you say, so I said, this can't be for real. This can't be serious. So I applied for it and they called me and I got the job. And it was one of the easiest interviews I went through. It wasn't for a therapist or anything because, of course, you had to be, a therapist. But it was for an enrollment or something. But if I could be any part of that company, just to be a part of it was amazing to me. So I applied, I got the job. I do still work there now. A great company. But here's the thing. You would think that somebody who's been suffering from this for decades would immediately seek therapy at the company. But I didn't. I did not. I actually have been with the company not not 2 years. Well, for a nice amount of time. So you would think, well, maybe like 2-3 months once you're in there, you start. I did not. I did not start receiving therapy for my OCD that I've been suffering from since the 90s until, just think, until like June or July of this year. After being with the company for about a year, I just now reached out for help. And I think the reason is because, number one, you're so engrossed in your part working that you think, I don't have time to do like the therapy part that goes with it. Can you imagine somebody who's been suffering for like more than 30 years saying that? You would think that I would jump at the opportunity to get therapy like right away. So then I thought about, I said, well, is it the exposure response part of it? Because that's the gold standard in OCD therapy is exposure response therapy. Expose you to what you're fearing. And I'm speaking as a complete layman. And they take you through. So fast forward, I'm in therapy. They take you through like a questionnaire and things of that nature to kind of break it down to see what your subtype and OCD is, and it can change throughout the years. I think I emphasized that before. It can change throughout the years. Like the OCD that I kind of struggle with now is something that I did not struggle with in the 90s or the early 2000s, any of that. It's basic contamination OCD. Like if a shirt that I have laid out to wear today falls on this floor, I would not wear it. I'll have to go get another shirt. Or if I do, I'll have to get like a cloth with alcohol on it and wipe it down before I put it on. But that was not a thing for me in the 90s and the 2000s when I dealt with OCD. It was not. So, I say that to say that OCD can get so bad, or the feelings become so like debilitating, that I think that's what had me seeking to go seek therapy. At least at that point, because it got to a point where I felt like this is getting too much. And it should have been too much over all these years, you would think. But it got to a point where, yeah, it was getting too much. And as a person with OCD, you are recovering. Always recovering. You're probably always going to have tendencies to do OCD or to act on your compulsions. But with therapy and help, you will recognize it and you can do your exposure response. And now, mind you, I'll say this. I've only had maybe about 4 or 5 sessions. I had to suspend them because, life happened. You still have to, pay your insurance portion of it and things like that. But I do intend to go back. But I just wanted to make this, not short video, 33-minute video, just to say that, OCD is a thing. It is, and I just want people who may be experiencing that to understand that there is help. It is a thing, and just to share my journey, to tell you and show you that you can overcome it. This is what this is, and to seek help. No CD is a great company that is the CEO suffered from OCD, and one of the reasons he started the company is because he couldn't find help, and the help he did find was so expensive, and you can go read about it. But No CD is a great company that I just happened to work for, and then as I explained in the video, my story of how I got there. But I just wanted to share this, that if anybody can see this and can relate and it can help you, I'm just so glad. If you have any questions or want to comment, just leave a comment down below and I'll respond to you. So thanks for listening to my story.